Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Record Rangers podcast. My name is Andy Newport, and as ever, I am joined by my sidekick, partner in crime, whatever you want to call him, big man, little man partnership, Scott McDermott. How are you, Scott?
I'm good, mate. I've been called worse things, thankfully, so that's no.
Yeah, well, we were together at Tynecastle at the weekend to see Rangers go up against Hearts. It was a big game for them, Scott. All the talk leading up to the game was 8-game unbeaten run under Danny Rohl. Could they get the win that would propel them back into a title race that looked to have been sort of beyond them at the start of the season under Russell Martin? But as we found out, no, they couldn't get themselves back in there. Obviously, thought to have been off to a great start with that Bojan Miovski goal, gets chopped off, and from there, Rangers sort of lost their way and, again, now find themselves, 12 points back at Hearts. Is this the result that knocks them out of the title race for good?
For good, maybe not, but certainly for now, they're pretty much out of it, I would say. They're going to need to go on a big run of wins, Andy. No, you'd need to say, what is there, 20 games left in the season, 21 games left. You need to go on minimum 10-game kind of winning run, and that obviously includes an Old Firm game at Celtic Park, which they certainly can't lose. So it's going to take that, and obviously Celtic and Hearts both slipping up, particularly Hearts after the weekend result. I think you're right. Sunday felt like a real missed opportunity, and I think Danny Rohl used that expression after the game. No, there was a lot of optimism going into it. Rangers have been a good run. They got a bit of confidence back away from home. They'd been good, and I mean, we were sitting there on Sunday. Obviously, you're chatting through the game. I thought, and even now looking back on it, I've listened to a lot of things post match. And I don't debate that Hearts deserve to win the game. But I have heard people saying the Hearts dominated Rangers and it was comfortable. And that might have been the case kind of second half. And I'm sure we'll get on to that. But certainly for the first half hour, and I think you agree. No, I thought the first half hour Rangers played well. And for a game at Tynecastle, an occasion like that, against a team that's flying, well, I thought for half an hour Rangers played as you would want them to play if you're a Rangers fan. I thought they were compact, they were solid, the shape was good, against the ball they were pretty good. Didn't really look like conceding. I didn't think, apart from a couple of Kizaridis runs. And from set pieces, Rangers looked a threat. Aside for the Miovski goal, Raskin misses a massive chance for a Tavernier free kick with a header. And even for open play, Mikey Moore had a good run, found a bit of space outside the box, a shot saved, Magoma has a rebound, and it's kind of deflected wide. I thought in that opening spell, Rangers were actually very decent, and Danny Rohl would have been quite happy. And I think he said that after the game. The two key things are, one, the Miovski goal, which, I mean, I've looked at it a million times and I see these lines. I said to you on Sunday when we watched replays in the press box, it looked as if Stuart Finley's toe was in line or playing Miovski onside. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they...
I think it's offside. I think these are difficult ones because of the situation with the angle you're viewing. The angle of the camera on the goal line is not directly in line with Miovski and Stuart Finley. So you're looking at it from an angle, so the perspective isn't great. But I think once you draw the line down from Miovski's shoulder, it's marginal, it's tight. But for me, it is just offside. But this is the I get the frustration, because then you go, where is the line drawn from? Because what I would say is, I think the line is drawn from in front of his shoulder. I don't know if it's... I'm not sure how the referees are told, that the VARs are told, does where do you start the line? Is it in front of the shoulder, as in like the outside of the thickness of the line? starts at the outside of the shoulder and drawn down, or do you put it? You actually have to have the blue line actually physically over the shoulder. I've seen so many different cases where it doesn't look like there's consistency in how the lines are drawn. But in terms of the lines that I see in the pitch, I think as an obviously calibrated, but it's that I think where the frustration might come is where is the line drawn on the actual images.
But the bottom line is the whole point of VAR was that offsides were going to be black and white decisions, and until we get this automated offside system in, there's always going to be doubts, because of camera angles, lines getting drawn, different amounts of cameras at different stadiums.
I just think for me, when you compare it to the English setup, and obviously their version of VAR is a far more sophisticated, costly operation than the sort of Poundland version that we seem to operate on. Is that but the images they use, whether it be these Ultra HD cameras, they always just seem to be so much sharper.
Yeah,
our refs are having to draw these lines off of blurry images. Listen, I'm not trying to say that the goal should have stood. I still think the balance of probabilities it was offside, but I do think there's so many occasions where you look at VAR and you go, either that's not the correct frame because the frame rate for these cameras isn't enough. Like in the space of one frame rate, the ball could have moved 3 or 4 feet, or somebody's foot could have moved 3 or 4 inches. And then again, the other thing is, where is the actual point that they placed the line, and then you've got a tolerance to count. And I just think, listen, we were desperate. We were all desperate, I think, to get VAR in because, the notion it would cut down controversy and it would get more decisions right. Okay, there's arguably been an uptick in the number of decisions that are now judged to be correct. But does it really cut down controversy, talking points? I mean, I feel like we talk about referees more than ever compared to back in the day. I mean, when you just had to kind of accept what the decision given on the pitch.
Well, unfortunately, the offside system as it stands, you just need to trust it. No, you need. We've no really other option. And juicy until they spend more money and make it more sophisticated, we need to trust it. So, but listen, either way, it was a pivotal moment in the game because you felt as if that goal had gone in, it would change the dynamic. And as I say, I think Rangers were on top of that stage. I think the goal was after 10 minutes, and Rangers had been the better team. The other key thing I was going to go into was, we'll talk about the mistakes that lead up to the Rangers, the Hearts goals, but it's the reaction once Rangers lose a goal, and this has been an Achilles heel. It feels for Rangers for a number of years now. It's the reaction when they suffer a setback. Saying to people the other day, look, we both played, even like amateur football, in any game of football at any level. When you lose a goal 5 minutes before half time, irrespective of the circumstances, first thing you do is you get everybody in. You make sure, listen, 5 minutes to half, let's get in at half time, we'll regroup, we'll sort it out. It's a blow because we've done okay, but let's make sure it doesn't get any worse. This Rangers team actually do the opposite. I mean, they seem to crumble as soon as a goal goes in, or as soon as they suffer a setback. And from a half-hour period where we both thought they'd actually done okay, by half-time it could have been 3-0. I mean, Hearts scored a second after 4 minutes and then had another chance before the half-time whistle. That's a major problem, and I think that obviously goes back to mentality. Well, it's to do with quality as well, but it's mentality, and I think Danny Rohl has touched on that in his press conferences in recent weeks in terms of the January transfer window. He has to. It's not just about signing good players. He has to sign players that he's pretty confident can deal with setbacks and can deal with pressure of playing for Rangers. And that's not an easy thing to do because every manager's pretty much said that since they came in the door. But that is the challenge because for too many years now, as I say, this team, this group of players, they don't deal with adversity at all well. And the reaction to going behind on Sunday was poor. I thought the reaction in the second half, at 2-0 down when the game's far from over, I thought the reaction second half was pretty poor as well. That's when I do think, and I do agree with people that say Hearts were relatively comfortable in the end because they were in the second half. I mean, they could have scored another couple themselves. Shankland obviously missed a couple of chances.
Rangers just sort of played in front of them a lot. There was nothing much.
Massive,
it was so easy for them just to sit in their shape. You've got obviously Frankie Kent covering for Craig Halkett, but as comfortable as an afternoon as you could have hoped for. And obviously Stuart Finlay just eating up balls in the air and anything time Rangers try to play and behind them. I agree with you. I felt that Hearts Rangers played the type of game second half that suited Hearts absolutely down to the ground. But just we are talking about the mentality there and the lack of response. I mean, I think the concerning thing for Danny Rohl will be looking at this game going, well, where are your leaders? Who are the big figures in your dressing room? And obviously, first of all, you need to have a look at Jack Butland. Obviously, needlessly gives away the ball, which leads to a corner from which Hearts get the opener with Finley's header. Really poor goal for Rangers to concede. Obviously, Hearts play the corner short. And they get the cross in. They allow Hearts to work a 2-on-1 out in the corner. They get the cross in. It's I felt that Rangers had sort of matched up physically really well with Hearts, but they allow the ball to come in and who's marking 6'3" centre back Stuart Finlay, but it's Conor Barn who pint-sized Conor Barn, which is just I don't know how that is allowed to happen. And then you then go from there. It's obviously the mistake from Butland. I mean, only Jack Butland will be able to explain what it was he was attempting to do. Is Lawrence Shankland hit what was at best a sort of hit and hope for a really tight angle. I mean, there's no right to score through there. And I think Jack Butland just stands his ground. He saves it. Now, what I should say is I think Jack Butland, his Rangers would, whatever you say the position they find themselves in right now, it would be an awful lot worse were it not been for some of the performances of Jack Butland this season. The concerning thing will be he is one of your leaders. He's made one mistake, he's then compounded it with a second. And I think a lot of Rangers fans will be having worrying flashbacks to last season when I think we'll agree Jack Butland was miles off his level and was responsible for a lot of mistakes. But again, he's one of your leaders in the dressing room. I look at the likes of Raskin. As poor as I've seen him play in a Rangers jersey on Saturday, just dominated by Nicky Devlin. Off the ball, did nothing with the ball when he was in possession. James Tavernier again, just a non-figure in the game. Really, just didn't really impose himself at all. There's your 34-year-old captain. Okay, we all know his legs are tiring, but he's still got quality in the ball. Didn't really show any great signs of that. I mean, I think that's. I mean, we all agree that guys that have come in the summer have been miles off it in terms of the character that would be required to be title winners, but the guys who Rangers would normally look to in the dressing room as the big figures were so poor as well. And what is a game that there was such a huge prize there. If they could have got the result on Saturday, they are right back in it. But they also, by losing it, it pretty much knocks you out of it. It was your classic 6-pointer. It was all there for them. There should be no shortage of motivation, but Rangers just, it seemed to me, I thought they actually handled the disappointment of having the goal chopped off well. I thought they responded well, and just at that 5 minutes after that, they looked like they were on top, but then they allow it to go. Yeah. How do you see it in that aspect?
Just in terms of Butland, I agree with you about Butland. This season would have been a lot worse with it. Jack Butland, I think he has kind of been in decent form this season after that, as you say, a disastrous campaign last year. But what do you do with the goalkeeping situation? Because he gets somebody better than Jack Butland, you're probably going to need to spend millions of pounds, Andy, for a keeper with that quality. I think Jack Butland's a very good Rangers goalkeeper. He's experienced, he's vocal, he speaks very well. I think he carries himself very well. I don't doubt he's a good personality in that dressing room. But we know that he's got a mistake in him. And let's be honest, that's probably why he's at Rangers and he's not still in the English Premier League, because he's got mistakes in him, and it's frustrating because you're right. He is one of the leaders, and at a time in a game like that, where you needed people to stand up and no make those kind of mistakes, he's made two big ones. I agree with you on the second goal. Only he will kind of explain. I'm sure there'll be a goalkeeping reason for where his feet were, what he was trying to do. He's clearly expecting the ball to be rifled back across the 6-yard box as opposed to getting the shot, Shankland taking the shot. When he does take the shot, Butland can't move his feet quick enough, because I think he's already took one slight step to the right, expecting the cut back. But it's a big mistake, and Rangers just couldn't afford to make those. And as I say, I agree, the second half, there was no real response. I mean, if Rangers score early in the second half at Tynecastle, there's still a way into the game for them. And you expected a big response for them, and it just didn't come. I mean, Danny Rohl made some tactical changes that were interesting. I mean, Raskin effectively dropped back into the back three. Tavernier went into midfield. I'm not quite sure the reasoning behind that, but whatever it was, it didn't work. And after kind of 15, 20 minutes, it was then just a case of throwing as many forward players or attacking players onto the pitch as you could, in desperate need of a goal. And then ironically, the guy who's absolutely desperate for a goal can't score for Toffee, gets a goal with 10 seconds to go. Big Shamiti. We actually a good goal, actually, when you look back at it, in terms of his pace, his power, his strength, and then producing a finish. But it almost kind of sums up Shamiti's time. I mean, the most meaningless goal in the season.
Too little, too late.
Aye, most meaningless goal of the season so far. People barely even mentioned it, even in their kind of match reports, barely got a mention. But it was probably a kind of big moment for him, just seeing the ball hit the back.
One of the reporters sitting next to me forgot to put it in the scoreline. He'd filed it with 2.5 hearts. So that tells you everything you need to know about the significance of that one.
Normally, does it do that, to be fair? So, it was too little, too late. And as we touched on at the start, it was an opportunity missed. It was a chance. There was a bit of momentum getting built. We were even kind of half joking before the game. Rangers 5-2 with the bookies, a big price. It would have been a statement win for them to go to Tynecastle and win. But yet again, just apart from that first 25, half an hour, they've not really turned up when it's really mattered. And need to give credit to Hearts. I mean, it's okay us sitting here saying Rangers played well. It could have been different with a goal, and that's right. But ultimately, we've been hypocritical because we've been saying all season Rangers just need to find ways of winning. And Hearts have done that this season. They've done it the weekend. Derek McInnes admitted himself they didn't really settle into the game for the first 10, 15 minutes, but they stay relatively solid. They don't concede, and then they play their way into the game. They take advantage of Rangers' mistakes and eventually showed their quality. No, just with the goals. I say there was chances after that. Shankland should have scored another 2. There's a few other opportunities. Every time Rangers seemed to get a set piece, it resulted in a Hearts chance, which just shouldn't be happening. Especially obviously with the set piece coach in there now.
I mean, just what you're talking about there about how well Hearts played. For me, the thing that really marked the marked difference between the sides was just desire. I thought Hearts, any time, whether it be Raskin, Mikey Moore, Gisama when he comes on, even Tavernier when he moves into midfield, anytime a Rangers player found themselves in 3 yards of space, how quickly it was smothered, it was shut down, not by 1 or 2, but 3 and 4 players in maroon jerseys, just desperate to cut off any supply to Miovski or to Shamiti when he came on. Just they were hunting in packs. I spoke to Brian Stevenson, our columnist, after the game, and he described them as being like a gang, and that's for me is a perfect description. Just a team, a mob that are so unified and so together, fighting for this collective aim of winning a title. And it's just that sense of togetherness that you've so seldomly seen from a Rangers team for a long, long time now. I mean, you're probably going back to the Seville season to see our Rangers team that played with that real sense of unity. But for me, it's you know, can you foster that spirit with the characters that Rangers have got right now? I mean, can they get anywhere near that, or is it really just about, yet again, for whatever it is, the 5th season in a row, it's a clear out and bringing in guys and try to rebuild it again?
It's hunger, and I mean, probably the word you didn't mention there is hunger. I mean, and I've accused this Rangers group of lacking that for so long now, and it was the same on Sunday. Ultimately, Hearts' hunger to win that game and stay top of the league and stretch their points gap was bigger than Rangers' hunger to go and get themselves back in the title race. And no, I listened to Roy Keane after the Man United Villa game at the weekend, and there's been a lot of similarities, I think, between Rangers and Man U in terms of performances. I know it's different clubs, different levels, but he was talking about that hunger, that desire. It has to come within players. He's talking about Dallo, the fullback, no stopping the cross for Villa's second goal. It's just lazy and just no that desire and appetite to keep goals out and go and get victories. And I think it's the same way with this Rangers group. And you're saying, how do you foster it? I think it's a mix. I think it has to come from within, no, in terms of individual players. But I do think a manager, a really good manager, can foster that and make it stronger, make it better. I think you've seen that with Derek McInnes at Hearts, because a lot of these players, I know what we talk about Hearts new players, like Kizaridis and Braga and people like that, but a lot of these Hearts players have been there for a while. Your Frankie Kent, Stephen Kingsley's, Cammy Devlin's, people like that. They've all been there. So you would question, why could they not put all this together before? A massive part of that is the manager, obviously. So where Rangers get that hunger from, as I say, it has to come from within with certain players. Some of these players clearly just don't have it. There will be other players coming in January, and as we've said, Danny Rohl's looking for a specific type of character, and I'm sure that will be part of it when he speaks to potential targets. He will have to see a real determination, desire, hunger, whatever you want to call it, to be successful, because I just don't think that's been there. A lot of these Rangers players, they talk about what they want to do and what they have to do and how desperate they are to do it. They don't show it in the pitch, though. As you say, they don't show that desperation in the pitch to put a tackle in, put a block in, stop a cross, keep a goal. You don't see it, and it's been happening for too long. And listen, the same as it's been for every other manager before him in the last few years. That's the challenge for Danny Rohl getting into January, because he'll think, and I'll put the question to you. You asked me earlier, but is it all over for them now? Are they genuinely just in a fight for second or third, or with additions in January? Could they go on a run? No. Could they beat Celtic at Parkhead? Could they win the next game against Hearts and get themselves back in it? That's a big question.
Well, they've definitely got the games left. They've definitely got the head-to-head fixtures left to turn it around. To me, obviously, okay, they're 12 behind Hearts with a game in hand, but they still got to play them another 2 times. Hearts will still have to play Celtic another twice. Still another 2 Old Firm games. So these points can be clawed back. But I obviously asked the question last week at the press conference to Danny Rohl, saying, you've basically been given an opportunity you never expected. You have to take it, because you can't really expect to get many more of them.
Yeah.
So I really think that they're now in a do or die sort of scenario. Like any depletes the slot. I mean, I dare say that you're probably looking at they can't afford to lose any more ground on the certainly the teams above them, and you obviously have to include Motherwell and that heading into Saturday's game. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not over. I mean, you only have to look a couple of years back when Philippe Clement came in a similar sort of scenario, similar sort of deficit on the teams above them. I think he took over maybe 8 points behind Celtic, obviously, if Rangers can win their game in hand, they will be 9 behind Hearts. So, listen, of course it's doable, but it has to be flawless. It has to be flawless from here on in. And do you really look at this Rangers squad and go, that's a group there that can go the rest of the season, what, as you say, winning, 20, 21 games on the bounce? I'm not sure they've got that within them. We wait with bated breath to see what kind of moves they're going to make in January. But again, I'm just sceptical because Rangers need probably 4 starters. 4 starters that are a significant upgrade in what's there already. And finding one of them in January when teams are so reluctant to let go of the better performers, when you have to pay an additional premium to sign guys at that time of year. To get 1 in would be tough. To get 4, I think, is a huge ask. So I'm not so sure. I think Danny Rohl should be using the remainder of this season. I think that you're already maybe looking at a stage to go, right, start building something. Take the pressure off yourself or not, eyeing the title. I mean, also, we were also at the press conference this morning. You asked the question about that. Is this an opportunity to sort of fly under the radar? And I suppose it is. Obviously, there's been big talk elsewhere. The limelight, the eyes of the Scottish football public will fall on Hearts now, will fall on Celtic a wee bit to an extent under now that Wilfried Nancy's got his first win under his belt. That'll be where the eyes are cast. Can Rangers operate in the shadows a wee bit of them too and just get themselves going a wee bit, find a bit of form, whether or not it's good enough to get them back into the title race? As I say, I think that's unlikely, but can he start developing a style of play? Can he start to build up some of the individual performances, the individual character traits? Can he get these, work out what's going to be needed in the summer to have a right good go next season? And I think a big thing as well is I think he needs to keep the fans on side, because I think already, and I think it's a small element, but they also happen to be a pretty vocal element, that people are already starting to ask questions about Danny Rohl. Well, why is he not getting the best out of a Max Allen's? Why is he not getting more out of Tello Asgard? Why are the strikers still so hot and cold at times, or mostly cold? Why is he not getting more out of the individual? Yeah, he's solidified the team. He's made them harder to beat. I think it's obviously 5 clean sheets and 9. Obviously, it's 2 individual mistakes that really cost them at the weekend. But why is he not getting more out of the individuals and that then feeding in? I think what Rangers really need to be careful about is the manager becomes the next fall guy, and you just repeating that cycle of the manager's to blame, ban him, get him out. We've not won a title for a season. It's clearly the manager's fault. I think that, as it has been the case for a long time, the structural issues at Rangers have been huge. The new owners have come in. They've somehow managed to make these structural issues worse. They're now addressing that. They've obviously got the chap from Liverpool. His name's going right out of my head. That's the man. On an interim basis, he's going to be helping over the course of January. They're still looking for a sporting director. There's still a new managing director to come in. So, having spoken with the folk around the club, senior figures at the club, last couple of weeks, I was lucky enough to go and have a chat with some of the Americans. Last week, they realise where they went wrong. They're now trying to put that right, but that is still the big debating point. Can they put this right? Can they fix the things off the pitch that have been leading to the problems on it? So, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, can they get back into the title race? I'm very doubtful of that. I think already you're now at the stage where they should be going, right, build for next season. I mean, that might sound, very sort of pessimistic in Rangers' behalf, but I just can't see how this group, without getting serious upgrades to it in January, which, as I say, I don't think can happen, can get anywhere close to a Hearts team that is as unified as right now.
But the other hard thing is, aside from making Rangers better on the pitch in terms of performances, you touched on the fans earlier. I think it's a massive job now for Danny Rohl to somehow get these fans up for it again, because and nobody's really talking about it, but I mean, I was at the Hibs game last Monday night, I thought the crowd was really poor for a game of that size. I know it was a Monday night, but when you think Rangers have been on a decent run and they're trying to get themselves back in the title race, going up against one of the better teams in the league, I thought the crowd was pretty poor in terms of number. I don't know the exact attendance, but there was lots of empty seats. No, if you think...
There was a tension round about the place as well, wasn't there? I mean, there was an angst round about it, which, I mean, I get the fans have got scar tissue from everything they've seen, but I think at times that limits the... you saw the power of Ibrox. Well, I speak about this so much, but on the way to the Europa League final, 2022, undoubtedly Ibrox lifted that team to heights that it should not have been able to reach.
Yeah.
But I think you've got a team that is clearly not fit for up to scratch, but it's also been dragged down a wee bit by just the negativity that has been able to sort of fester.
That's what I mean, and the games don't get any easier, because Motherwell, the last thing Rangers probably need after losing a game like that at Tynecastle is to come back to a game against Motherwell where on the face of it you think Rangers should win comfortably. I mean, in my whole lifetime, I don't know you've ever went into a Rangers Motherwell game at Ibrox and you were concerned in any way. You always thought, no, Rangers will be fine, should be a comfortable win. But if the crowd, it's not going to be, Ibrox isn't going to be packed to the rafters. It's not going to be full. It's just, there's no way, because of the recent results and because of the way this season's been. Punters are going to turn up expecting to see an immediate reaction for Tynecastle, expecting players to be at it, go and try to get the 3 points against a very good Motherwell team. The last thing they need is a Motherwell team full of confidence coming to Ibrox, popping it about. We know how they play under this manager. The team are going to need, I keep saying this all the time, but when times are tough, it's not a case of the fans getting the players up for it. The players need to get the fans up for it, and none more so than a game like this on Saturday.
Well, Danny Rohl did talk about that this morning at his press conference. I sort of asked him about that, just given the sort of toxicity, the negativity we've seen at times, do they need the help from the fans? But as you say, that and he made the point himself that, had they won that game at Tynecastle, he said that Ibrox would have been on fire this weekend, because then you're in a title race, then the fans know that they can play a part in that. But again, it's this deflating aspect. You're now 12 points behind. Are you really playing for anything this season? Are you just playing to make up the numbers? And he admitted that it's his job, it's the players' job to sort of try and find their own confidence again, because understandably the fans, given everything they've been through, they're going to find it hard for themselves to get up for this. It's now just we're not quite at dead rubber territory, but a 3 points. Where does 3 points Saturday take you? Okay, it gets you up to third. I mean,
and that's what I mean.
Is that really the thing that's going to turn on the Rangers support? No, far from it. No chance.
The worst games at Ibrox, in my experience, are those games where there's just apathy, and it is so hard, I think, it has been so hard for the team to overcome that hurdle. No, it's their fault. They're in that position. No, they're in this position in the league, and it's them that's got to somehow turn that around. But when it's quiet and there's a lot of empty spaces, it is a massive job for the manager and these players to, as I say, to overcome that. But the only way you do it is by running hard, fighting for every ball, showing a bit of desire, everything that we spoke about, and making sure they go and win that game, irrespective of the form. Motherwell are in, and they're in great form. They've this incredible unbeaten run. They're up to third in the league. But ultimately, Rangers should have better players than Motherwell. Rangers do have better players in Motherwell. So it's about getting out and it's about them getting out and showing that. Make sure they get a 3 points, show the right response to the defeat at Tynecastle, and then kick on to St Mirren. And St Mirren, again, a completely different challenge, but just as big a challenge, because we all know the threat that St Mirren pose. They're on a major high after winning the League Cup. They follow that up with another League One last week. They've caused Rangers problems recently at Ibrox, as I say, in a different way to Motherwell, but Rangers will need to adapt to that. But this run of games that Rangers have got coming up, I mean, Danny Rohl's talking about getting back in it, and they need to go on a kind of relentless run. but it's tough games. No, and as I say, the two at Ibrox to me, they on paper, when you look at the list of fixtures, Motherwell, St Mirren, Celtic away, then a double header against Aberdeen. People think Motherwell and St Mirren at home are fine. To me, they're the two most dangerous games because, as I say, the crowd aren't going to be that up for it. The players need to react. The Celtic game will take care of itself, and away the Aberdeen games can take care of themselves as well. Rangers have actually looked better away from home, I think, this season than at home. So these two games coming up, Motherwell and St Mirren within 3 days. Danny Rohl's under no illusions. I mean, it has to be 6 points, but my God, it's not going to be easy, and these players are going to need to turn up to win it.
It's just interesting what you're saying there, because I don't know if you saw the Stephen Gerrard interview with Alan McCoy's.
I've only seen McCoy's.
I mean, he spoke about that. He says the biggest challenge of being a Rangers manager he found was negotiating the extremes and sort of emotions that you go through when you go and play a big European match away from home. He was talking about Benfica, Porto away. You're playing proper Champions League level clubs away from home, big European games, and then you're coming back and you're home to Hamilton, or he said that with the greatest of respect. But there's no doubt that on an emotional basis, they are two hugely different sort of challenges.
Yeah, and you know what, Andy, that I totally agree, and that's been the case for years. But I tell you what helps you with that, and this is probably a totally different podcast for another day, but we've touched on it before. What helps with that is when you've got a real Scottish core in the team, and you've got players who are used to playing Scottish Premiership, players who don't mind coming off the big game, and it's a home game against St Mirren, because that's what they're built for. That's what they've had that's what's got them a move to Rangers normally in the first place. It's how they play in these games. And I think that's what's missing as well. As I say, we've mentioned that loads on here, but Rangers are missing that base, that foundation, that core of players that know what it's about, know the demands, know the schedule, can get themselves up for the kind of mundane games that maybe are, and I'm not picking these guys out for any specific reason, but like a Max Aarons or a Jaden McGowan, is it difficult for these guys to really get up for St Mirren at home? Of course, when it's a cup semi, or it's Celtic, Nil Firm, or even on Sunday when they know it's a big game, Hearts away. But it's these bread and butter games that have to be won, and that's where you really need that core, that strength within the squad. And obviously, I just don't think Rangers have got that, and I think we both know that.
Just finally on that, in terms of somebody Scottish coming back in, the news from this morning's press conference was that John Souttar looks to be back ever so slightly ahead of schedule. Obviously get injured in the warm-up ahead of the Scotland-Denmark game last month, hasn't played since. Danny Rohl said a couple of weeks back he was hopeful but unsure that he'll be back for the game at Parkhead on January 3rd, but announced this morning that he's hopeful he might be able to play some part against St Mirren next midweek. Just finally, I mean, how much a boost or not is that in your eyes? I mean, is he somebody that you think adds to this Rangers team?
Well, I still think it's a boost for them, given the kind of numbers and the quality that they've got in the squad. I still think John Souttar is in your starting 11 when you look at that squad. Whatever you think of him, maybe in the future, next season, whatever, as a first choice centre-back for Rangers, I've got my doubts about that. However, Danny Rohl's already says he wants to keep him at Ibrox. He wants him there next season. That's a huge kind of vote of confidence for John Souttar. We know they're speaking to him and his representatives about extending his contract at Rangers. So Danny Rohl clearly rates him, as I say, whether that's a first choice or it's just part of the kind of defensive group. We don't know. But for now, in this season, he needs John Souttar fit, and when he is fit, he'll probably start in Danny Rohl's team between now and the end of the campaign. And I agree with you. I think he'll want him back for the Old Firm game. Listening to him this morning, I think it's clear the manager wants to get him back for St Mirren, get him some kind of game time so that he's ready to. I think that game's on the Tuesday night, and then he's got until the is it Saturday though, firm or Sunday? Yeah,
Saturday.
Saturday. So he's got until the Saturday to get John Souttar ready. Because listen, whatever you think of him, he's got experience. He's been there a million times before. He's been over the course. So if you're going to Celtic Park for a difficult Old Firm game, no, you've not got loads of numbers defensively, then you want John Souttar available. Where he comes into that, who knows? I mean, you need to think, even now, we don't know how the next couple of games are going to go, but going to Parkhead, you would think it'd be a kind of similar shape to the one he went with at Tynecastle. No, you'll probably want that 5 at the back, 3 in midfield, 1 playing off the front. So if Souttar was to come back into that, I suppose at the end, he would probably come in the middle of the back 3, with Sterling and Fernandez at either side. Obviously, Giga's away. So that then raises question, where does James Tavernier fit in? Does he fit in? As Max Aarons kind of made that right wing back slot his own. Now, I would argue probably not. I mean, I don't think he's done enough to cement it. No. But there is an argument. There's been an argument about Tavernier that when he has played there recently, he's not looked at his best. He obviously struggled for the goal away to Ferencvaros, the second goal. Struggled to get out to his man quick enough and to stop the cross. So that would be interesting. But certainly, if Souttar's fit, you would expect him to come into that back 3. That would be the strongest back 3. Sterling, Souttar, and Fernandez going to Parkhead. And I'd be surprised if it isn't that. Who plays wing backs? That might change, but if he comes back in, Danny Rohl will want him fit and available for the derby, I think.
Right, okay, I think we'll just leave it there for this week. Obviously, you can join us next time as we build up to the Old Firm game, and we'll need to have a chat about when we record this, probably do it in the wake of the St Mirren game. But as always, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So please like and review if you can, as that would help us to spread the pod far and wide. You can also obviously keep up to date with all the goings on at Ibrox online and in the paper. So we thank you, and we will see you again next time.